The Final Fantasy Podcast is brought to you by the Akashic. Do you like zombies? Do you like crystals? How about crystal zombies? No, we're not rip-offs of the Sia from Final Fantasy XIII. Shut up. If you're running a kingdom and you're a maniac and you don't feel like dealing with people, considering converting your entire populace to the Akashic today. Hello everyone, welcome to the Final Fantasy Podcast. I'm BlueHighwind. Joining me today is, these people. You can introduce yourselves in whatever order you want.
I'm Scathe. Hello. Now someone else does it.
SomeColorMage.
I'm Yuchai-san.
Okay, alphabetical order. Right? Yes. Yes. All right. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Final Fantasy Wiki Podcast is the podcast of the Final Fantasy Wiki, which is a wiki about Final Fantasy. And I think that describes the entire story, right? Are we any more complicated than that?
It can be found at http /. Remember when people did that in advertisements? When like,
no,
like if you watched a television show, it was like, you can find us at http : colon double /. Like they had to write out the whole.
I don't remember that, but I remember you'd have to say www dot.
Yeah, like even in the 90s, your web browser would do the HTTP bits automatically. So, yeah.
Maybe I just grew up among boomers, but I distinctly remember advertisements still, for some reason, reading that out as a necessary thing you had to do.
I remember that too. I just also remember being stupid because even the most simple web browsing stuff already did that for you.
What does that even mean? What does it do?
Hypertext transfer protocol. Basically, the internet runs on pretty much exactly the same system that you used. The internet URLs have to start with the name of the protocol that you're using to communicate with. And this system even gets used within your computer. Like if you want your browser to open something that's on your computer already, you can do that. You just have to replace the HTTP with file, because that's the protocol for just open something on my fucking computer. I don't care how you're communicating with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the series of tubes, and you need to talk to the tubes, and then the tubes release the internet juice into your computer. Is basically, I think, is how it works.
Yeah, and www
Learned
is
new already today.
Yeah. That's World Wide Web, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Which
the internet superhighway is just waiting for you.
Yes. As we know, the U.S. military and all the greatest minds worked for decades maybe, to develop computers to allow random people around the planet, mostly in the Anglosphere, but not exclusively, to then go and gather and compile the greatest trove of knowledge about the Final Fantasy series.
Yeah, and here we are, the podcast of therein.
Yeah. Alan Turing dreamed of this.
For you to come, read, contribute, maybe get blocked because you posted the same thing on someone's talk page 10 times in a row and they're not getting a hint. That's something that happened on the wiki over the past week, by the way.
Yeah,
that's our wiki news. Okay, yeah. Give us the wiki spice. Here we go. Because we don't really have that much Final Fantasy news, right? So let's just go for the wiki news right now. Let's hear it.
Okay, if you want to hear about some absurd coding bullshit I'm doing, just mainly to spite one guy in particular, so MediaWiki, the software that we run on, it has this thing known as auto-confirmed, and basically it's just if you have an account for long enough, you do enough edits, then your account is automatically trusted a bit more and can do things like edit pages that anonymous users aren't allowed to touch. The problem is that's kind of broken on fandom. They have auto-confirmed programmed in such a way that you can just get it by creating an account and then sitting on your ass, not do anything for a few days, which means that that kind of protection doesn't work. So just this morning, I figured out how to get our auto moderator to detect when someone who has just recently created an account is trying to overcome that, and tell them, no, go edit a few other places first so we actually trust you.
Well done.
And I
Excellent.
expect someone's going to yell at me for this because, it's basically directly fucking with something fandom did, but in this case I'm fucking with it to make it more secure, so yeah.
Wasn't the other issue that...
No, won't edit.
Wait, sorry. Who's going first?
I was just saying what fandom doesn't know won't hurt them.
Okay. So wasn't the other issue that this was like kind of a universal thing? So like if you edit a few times in another wiki, the auto system thought it was good for this wiki too? Yeah, fandom applies auto-confirm to every site on fandom at the same time. So yeah, it does allow you to circumvent it on another site, but again, you don't need to do that because there's no edit count requirement at all on it on fandom, so you just have to wait out the timer. Is this like fandom's weird attempt to try to, I don't know, stop making wikis seem like independent websites and that it's all just one amorphous blob of stuff? I don't know. I don't care. I don't know. I don't care. I fucked around with abuse filter for a couple hours this morning just to figure out the exact thing I need to type in to detect when someone is trying to edit a protected page, just so I could install this thing. So, whatever they're trying to do with this, with how this works, I don't care anymore because I've stopped it. What we need is for somebody here to be a multi-millionaire so that we can just get out of fandom and start our own website. God. Yeah. So, okay. I have lots
really
of money.
Remarkable.
I just need a little bit of startup. I just need a little bit of a startup pool from everybody. If you just pool in a little bit, and then I can, it'll transfer. Like my bank account, like there's like a key on it. It just needs like $5 from everybody, and then I can give it to everyone. Okay.
I must say it's really remarkable because one of the problems with doing this in multiple people try that is of course Google SEO optimization, but in playing FF16 and Tears of the Kingdom recently, it's really remarkable how completely dreadful any website is for trying to work out how to do things in video games anymore. Yeah. Is anyone else finding that as well? I'm finding...
Well, it's all trash, yeah.
I'm finding that most guide sites are pretty good. If you go to normal, go to The Gamer or whatever, you can just question whatever you need. But this is becoming an increasing problem that there's just more and more trash on the internet that's completely useless. Mm-hmm. Yes. Actually... Thanks, ChatGPT. Actually, weirdly enough, I was thinking this. I was discussing this in another Discord, but nobody picked up on my comment. But wikis might end up being one of the more reliable sites because at least there's some human group that's going and moderating over everything, and it's not for profit. So if somebody's just spamming tons and tons of nonsense, there'll at least be some kind of editorial backlog to it. And you at least have the history and you can see it. So
I'm just waiting for Wikipedia's scandal. Like Wikipedia's, AI-generated content scandal. It's going to happen eventually. Where it's going to turn out like hundreds of articles about Northern Scottish islands or something are going to be generated by AI, and it's all going to be completely wrong. Just like how that one person made up the Scots language.
Yeah, exactly. That exact one.
I believe
don't worry about that. Fandom attempted to have one of those scandals 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
There's already something like that, which I think it's a Tagalog Wikipedia version, is almost entirely made up by one dude just translating the articles using software from English.
Oh, that's the Scots one.
No, it's not the Scots one. It's
it's a different
Wikipedia as well.
Wait,
Yeah,
there are
it's a Filipino
multiple that
language.
have that problem.
It's a Filipino. It's a Filipino language. I think it's not Tagalog, but it's a different language. It's one of the bigger ones, but it's only because everything is like a one sentence translation made up by AI about like random places.
And about like
in,
really random
Scotland.
things like random villages and so on.
All right, so everything's trash.
It's Cebuano is the second biggest Wikipedia. But it's just because of one guy.
Wait, it's the second biggest language?
Yeah, second biggest language.
Of all of them.
All of them, yeah.
And it's one guy that did the whole thing.
Yeah. So this Wikipedia, this wiki has 11 million pages. The German one, for comparison, has 7.8 million. But it only has 5 admins and 106,000 users. By comparison, the German Wikipedia has 4 million users.
Oh, man. All right. So everything sucks, and it's just getting worse. As usual.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Great. Well, anyway, we have a topic of great positivity coming up, which is Final Fantasy XVI. But before we get to that, we should talk about the news, right?
Yep. Okay, let's hear it. Give me that news.
All right. So, there's only a few tiny little bits. First of all, this was earlier this month. Hideki Kamiya, who you might know as the guy on Twitter who blocked you. He is Platinum Games exec. He went and spoke to a topic that came up earlier on this podcast a few months ago, which Yoshi P was deciding that he disliked the term JRPG. Hideki Kamiya decided that, well, I don't say decided. His opinion is that Japan should be proud of the term JRPG and actually wants his own term J-Action. Of course, Hideki Kamiya is also prone to just saying things, often not in 100% seriousness, and he also has the trope of blocking you on Twitter all the time. I think I'm blocked by him. Yeah. No. What?
I mean, if in the past few years you made a tweet in English as him, you get instantly blocked for that. So,
well, that was your mistake. You should have been tweeting in Japanese the entire time if you wanted to speak to Platinum Games executive.
I think I complained about Bayonetta 3's ending, and I think I'm blocked by him just for saying that. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, he's a secret boss in Nier Automata, so you can go kill him in that game.
I think only in a DLC or something?
Yeah, and in one of the DLC, you can kill him and also the former CEO of Square Enix.
Yeah.
So there's that at least. If you want to take out your rage against him, he's just there waiting for you.
I mean, also, I do need to say, the ending of Bayonetta 3 was terrible. Indefensibly bad. So let's move on. Alright, the big news that's coming up is this month there was the closed beta for Final Fantasy Ever Crisis. This is the big new mobile game that'll be the... I don't even know what you call this now. Final Fantasy compilation? The compilation of Final Fantasy VII? Is it even in that? The compilation
it's
of...
Final Fantasy VII powered by compilation.
Okay, yeah. So... there's going to be an original story, and they did release a few characters, one of which is this fellow Glenn Lodbrok, who...
Isn't it Lothbrok?
I don't know, man. Maybe?
But that's
Ragnar,
the Viking. That's
yeah,
Ragnar.
exactly, yeah, Ragnar.
That's what he's named after.
Could be. Whoa. Vehicle driving by.
Just a motorcycle.
Yeah. Ragnar on his motorcycle.
What was the name of the motorcycle guy from the Final 7 remake? It was that guy.
Oh, I can't remember. Roche, yes.
Roche,
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
That's I haven't played Final Fantasy VII remake, and I think that's the only thing that I've been shown about it is the motorcycle guy and also cloud dancing.
Those are the best parts.
Honestly, the two best parts. It's the two best parts of the game.
That and Jessica's new name, Raspberry. So, alright, so this guy Glenn, a theory is that he might be Cloud's dad. He's definitely not Cloud's dad. He's a soldier P0 class. And, quote, he volunteers for a dangerous mission in enemy territory, one with a large reward to locate a site for the construction of a Mako reactor. I think this might be the abandoned story mode for Final Fantasy The First Soldier, which they've backported into this new game.
Yeah, this is First Soldier related, which First Soldier's dead, so...
Yeah, might as well recycle it.
We never got to play our battle royale, mobile battle royale, free-to-play, pay-to-win game on stream. What are we doing?
I played one round, and I think that was enough. Anyway, this new game's coming out September 7th on Android and iOS. I guess it's going to be Square Enix's big new push. There are some reviews out of the closed beta. Fabula Novus Crystallis, that website, they seemed okay with it. But also, you have to like this kind of game. I might give it a shot. I don't know.
Is it like?
I mean, it's just like one of those mobile games, right? That just like you just pay to speed up stuff, and it's like an auto battle or something.
It's a gacha RPG. Yeah, like I guess it has a bit more depth than is usually like what we're usually used to when we hear about gacha role-playing games, but it's still one of those, and like you have to, roll the fucking gacha to get new weapons and outfits, and a lot of these outfits look bad, frankly.
Speaking of mobile RPGs vaguely related to Square Enix, has anyone played, I think it's called A Cat in Time? It's Masato Kato and Yasunori Mitsuda's collaboration, which is a mobile RPG. It's been out for a while and it's actually available free on Steam as well.
I have not heard of this.
It's not a gacha at all. But, I mean, that is the Dream Team that brought us Chrono Trigger and then a bunch of things that were not as good as Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, I didn't hear about this at all. Let me check this out. A Cat in Time. Excuse me. I know the Chrono Trigger composer. Isn't he working on a new game soon? He might be working in that Sea of Stars game that's coming out in a few days.
Mitsuda?
Yeah, I think he's on that, yeah.
Huh. This is... Oh, wait, this is Cats in Time. That's clearly not it. A Cat in Time. I'm trying to find it. Let me just look up Masato.
I can't remember what it's called. Just look up Masato Kato.
I'm looking him up. No, not Masato from Evangelion, Google. Try better.
Another Eden?
Is that it?
Could be. That sounds familiar.
Yes,
yeah.
that's it.
But that was a 2017
it's Attacks
game.
Beyond Time and Space is the subtitle. That's what I was thinking of.
Okay, this came out, looks like worldwide 2019. And they were going to make a Switch port. I don't know if that ever actually happened. Yeah, I heard of this, and then I didn't really hear much anything beyond that.
I think it's on Steam.
Okay.
And apparently isn't, well, at least what I've heard, allegedly, is that the mobile nonsense isn't that high. Like, the timers and gacha and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, I see.
Not.
I know this one. This is the one where they have, like, chibi battles things. The characters look very chibi in the battles. This pixel art looks okay. Or pseudo-pixel art, whatever it is. Yeah, I don't know if I got time for this, but Sea of Stars, that looks like a lot of fun. There was a good demo for that.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard of that one. What is that?
That's a upcoming, because every single... It's an indie JRPG style game. The characters run like ducks in a row like Chrono Trigger, so everyone compares it immediately to Chrono Trigger. It's got more of a Mario RPG combat thing, and it's got very pretty pixel art.
So it's timed hits. You know about timed hits?
Yes, it's got timed hits. One of my favorite games of last year was an indie JRPG, so I'm always interested in another one of those. Chained Echoes. I think I called it the best Final Fantasy game of 2022, if memory serves. Anyway, does anyone have anything else to say about Ever Crisis?
No.
Some horrible costumes have been released for it.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Last bit of news. This is coming out of Bloomberg. Square Enix had their next, I guess like their stock release and all that sort of stuff. They had a 15% drop on August 6th because of a 79% decline in operating profit. It seemed that Final Fantasy XVI sold well enough for them to brag that it sold 3 million in one day, but also question mark if it sold enough. All this sort of stuff is very hard to tell because they don't release very good data on any of these sorts of things. This is all the Japanese stock market.
And Square Enix is disappointed when their games don't sell 10 billion copies, so it's hard to tell, really. They have bizarre expectations, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, their claim is that 16 is basically dead on expectation, which, yeah, probably would be if 7 Remake's launch window sold 3.5 million. So for a smaller platform with higher costs, 3 million would make sense. The numbers they put out are just kind of weird because it's like, we made big profits and nearly everything went up, but we've burnt through nearly all of that money already. Like, it's mainly just that operating income thing that I guess indicates that they spent a lot more than they actually made. And part of that is that they just released way too much last year. Like, they were putting out new things every week. They were competing against themselves a lot of the time.
Yeah, there was that tactical RPG they released late September last year that I never got around to playing. I don't think anyone got around to it either. What was that thing called?
They released thousands of farming simulators as well.
Sorry,
no,
what?
Triangle Strategy was a while back. I think Blue's thinking of Dio Field, but I'm hedging my bet there because I think his description matches multiple titles because Square Enix was completely overboard with releasing stuff late last year.
No, I played Triangle Strategy to completion. I like that game. It was Dio Field Chronicles. That was an okay game. I mean, Triangle Strategy was an okay game. No one had anything good to say about Dio Field. So. Also, Mario Rabbids came out late last year, and I never had time for that, and that never happened. There were a lot of tactical RPGs from last year I never got around to.
Like, I know a bunch of people who weren't aware that, Yoko Taro's, Voice of Cards thing was actually a trilogy, because, all 3 of them were released within the space of the year, and the second and third really close to one another.
I played the first one of those as a demo, and it was kind of boring, I'll be honest.
I mean, yeah, the thing is that in terms of sales, I mean, obviously operating costs are down because games don't sell that much after the first week. But I imagine when the game comes out for PC at the beginning of next year, it'll probably launch with some DLC or something.
Yeah.
And people will get some more money. I mean, I feel like, although they did promise the game is complete, which I think is true, I think that they will probably drop some expansion packs for this game.
Oh yeah, 16 will absolutely get another bump in sales once the PC version comes out, but I don't think that was a problem to Square in the first place.
And we'll probably have an Xbox version too once the Sony exclusivity version drops. I bet that has PC and Xbox.
Maybe. One thing that's actually come up in the past couple of weeks because Gamescom has happened, a lot of developers really fucking hate having to develop for the Xbox Series S.
Why is that?
The weaker console.
Microsoft's, because Microsoft's strategy was that you put out a game, it's going to be exactly the same on the Series X, the Series S, and in some cases even the Xbox One. And this has caused problems because the Series S is significantly weaker than both the Series X and the PlayStation 5.
You see,
Like-
I'm what they consider a pro gamer, right? And
Yeah.
I still don't remember the differences between any of these Xbox consoles. They all have stupid names. I can't even remember
Yes, they do.
Which one is which and what even the point of any of them are. I've never seen anyone have one. I've never heard of anyone buying one. I don't think they're even popular. But yeah.
Well, like this all like came to a head with Baldur's Gate 3, like, when they announced that the Xbox version is delayed indefinitely, and while they didn't say it openly, everyone knew that it was because Larian Studios were having trouble getting the multiplayer features working on the Xbox Series S. And Microsoft made a big show, oh, we're going to help Larian make this game work. And eventually they just announced, yeah, it's coming out, but the multiplayer only works on Series X. And at the same time, Phil Spencer was claiming, we never said that there's feature parity only for Stephen Toledo, who's a journalist on the gaming beat at Axios, released a copy of the older Xbox contracts, which specifically said that the Series X and Series S versions of games must have feature parity.
Yuncha-san, you had a point, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's truly unfortunate that apparently Sony, through its marketing genius, has claims that being able to name your consoles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that Xbox is completely fucked over when they try and work out how to name their consoles in a row.
You know what's amazing on that topic? Sony is the first console to ever think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because even like Atari, when they first were creating consoles, they went 2600, 5200. They're like in this random order. Though, Magnavox Odyssey, there was the Odyssey 2. I do have to revise that one statement. But Atari was like hundreds.
Named after the movie, of course. Odyssey 2.
What's Odyssey 2?
Yeah, it is really amazing how no one else has decided to do this. Nintendo, no. Sega, no. It's only Sony is capable of naming its consoles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The whatever the Switch 2 is called there's a good chance it's going to have one of the weirdest names ever made, because Nintendo already blew up one console by doing that with the Wii and the Wii U.
It's going to be called the new Switch 2 again.
Yeah. Actually, Switch 2 would be probably the best name for it.
Yeah, Switch 2 would be the best name for it.
To Switch 2 Furious.
Switch
the thing
2,
is
Switch
that
harder.
Moving back to Final Fantasy XVI, like if you think about Xbox releasing, like the big first-party console game they released for Xbox was the terrible vampire game, while Nintendo released Tears of the Kingdom and Sony released Final Fantasy XVI, right?
Well,
as the two. But I mean, Sony didn't release Final Fantasy 16, but it came out as a sole title for PlayStation 5.
I mean, for
they
Xbox, you have
money into it that it's effectively first party.
For Xbox, they give it a few days because Starfield will be out. That's their big game of the year.
I saw a lot of advertisement for that vampire game, which I forgot the name of already.
Redfall?
Yeah, Redfall.
Redfall, yeah.
Redfall.
But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I've played, the only Bethesda game I played was Skyrim about, 100 years ago when they released it. Because apparently, it was released in like 2010 or something, right? It's quite old now. But I don't know. It doesn't feel like well, we'll see. My experience with that game was it just didn't really work because I played it on PlayStation 3. But I'm sure people will enjoy their Starfield game, but I won't play it. Not because I'm a hater, but
I
because
can
don't have an Xbox.
predict what Starfield's going to be like. I mean, it's on the same engine and everything, so it's going to be
Is
one
it
of
really
the glitchiest
on the same
things
engine?
anyone. Yes, so it's going to be one of the glitchiest things anyone's ever played, and everyone's going to consider it one of the greatest games ever. 10s out of 10s across the board, and will probably sell less than Baldur's Gate 3 because that's been a runaway success. Like, I think only Tears of the Kingdom has outsold it this year so far.
I thought Square Enix was the most obsessive for making their developers use just the worst, horrible, outdated engines of all time. But apparently that's a thing.
Oh no, they're primarily an Unreal house now.
Well, they've changed.
Like
They've moved.
Yeah, like 16's in house, but you know, the 7 remake trilogy, that's on Unreal,
and Kingdom Hearts 3 as well.
And Kingdom Hearts is on Unreal, yeah.
Microsoft actually has a bad reputation now for using old, outdated stuff, because that's the problem with Halo Infinite. That's still running on old tech from, like, original Halo. Like, they've just been working on the same engine all these years, and Infinite was a complete catastrophe. They were just unable to get that game running properly for them to keep building it the way they wanted it.
The plan was impossible to begin with. You know, they claimed they had, like, this 10-year plan for this game that they were releasing at the end of the Xbox One's lifespan on the Xbox One.
Anyway, Final Fantasy XVI. I feel like we should actually get to that topic, right? So, yeah. Skaith and Yuncha-san, I think you both have thoughts about Final Fantasy XVI. Me and SomeColorMage gave our thoughts last month, so you can listen to that, all the podcasts you want to hear what we have to think. Also, in a bit of self-promotion, you should go to https://www.bluehighwind.blogspot.com. You could read my review of it. I wrote like 2,500 words on the game.
That was pretty good, honestly. Once you got past the first hurdle,
it's very difficult. No one ever says it, so it's a weird and unnatural.
Skaven and I have the thing where if we talk about what we're going to do for the rest of the day, we have to say, what shall we do with the remains of the day? A novel by Nobel Prize-winning author Kazuo Ishiguro, and it's strangely difficult to get through it.
Done it well. But in terms of Final Fantasy 16, I read the review. I won't spoil it for those who want to read it. But I basically agree with it, but I have an interesting opinion where my sentiment has fallen to the other side of the Nile River. So while BlueHighwind lives among the crocodiles and the reeds, I bask with the hippos on the other side, and I actually enjoyed the game overall.
Wait, which side am I on? The east or west side?
You're with the crocodiles in the reeds.
Yeah, but am I towards Libya or am I to the Promised Land?
You're towards Libya, unfortunately.
Oh darn! All right, fine. No offense, Libya.
Unfortunately, that's where the crocodiles are. I'm in the Promised Land. I'm in the land of milk and honey.
Okay.
And you are outside in the desert, wandering for 40 days and 40 nights.
One more joke. I have to do one more joke before we get to the point. I'm Benny in the movie The Mummy, going and proudly proclaiming that I have all the horses, and you're pointing out that I'm on the wrong side of the river. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
correct.
Yes. All right. Now your thoughts on this.
It's okay. To put the extended metaphor to rest, I agree essentially with the flaws that I think everyone agrees with, because but the thing is that ultimately the flaws do not detract from the sentiment that I ultimately have of positivity. Well, the flaws being, one, the game is too long. There's a lot of weird filler in it. There's some strange decisions in plot structure and writing, and the worst thing is the purple filter they put on 2/3 of the way through the game that doesn't go away.
And, I forgot to mention that. Shit. All right, fine.
Which is very bizarre. A very bizarre choice. Is really bad, and the game is honestly beautiful. Like, it looks good, but then they put a purple filter over it, and the game becomes blurry for the last third of the game for reasons unknown. But I think that the thing that's interesting about this game is that it succeeds in ways that other Final Fantasy games do not, which is, namely, this is by far the most fun Final Fantasy game to play, just gameplay-wise, without, I think, any comparison, except you can maybe argue Final Fantasy V or Tactics. But obviously this is fun in a very different way from those games. And the fundamental game that they've created is very good. But there is the one problem where it does get dragged out in the middle. But like, when the game is good, it's one of the best, or if not the best, Final Fantasy experiences they've created. But the problem is the game is not always good. And I'm not saying this is my favorite Final Fantasy game of all time, which is not the case. But I think that having just played Final Fantasy 15 before playing this game, I think maybe I feel like this is and along with 7 Remake, it really shows that Square Enix has found at least like a path forward that isn't like they've come out of the darkness a little bit, and they found a path forward of something that they can use as a template as for games going forward. They found something that is actually functional. They were able to finish a game, which is is good. And although I think the major problem is that the game doesn't have enough variety within it, is something that I imagine that it was a bit of an overreaction to Final Fantasy XV, which is a game with far too much in it. But I do think that the continual problem with Square Enix is that they continue to overreact to the previous game. But that being said, I liked the experience overall. And I wouldn't put it at 11th. I would put it at least somewhere in the middle of my list of games that I like. And but I will say that it doesn't have the same sort of manic energy that a lot of Final Fantasy games do have, that really makes them quite unique in their own way. This sort of desire to do everything, but never come quite there, or sometimes exceed our expectations because of all the madness that they try to get at, which is what we like about some of the greatest games in the series, like 7 or 9 or 12, even 8, which is not, I think, everyone's favorite necessarily, and is a very flawed game, but it's a very memorable game in its failures and its overreach and its excess. And this game is not a game of excess. It's a game of restraint. It's a game that is somewhat safe, but in its safety, it does something that is quite unsafe, which is completely change how the game plays. And that itself is quite risky. And I think that risk was a success. But as I said, it does have a lot of flaws, which do detract from the experience. But that's overall my experience from the game. That's my final thoughts.
Okay. I'm not going to do a I don't know, like thesis defense here or whatever we're doing. So yeah, I don't know. Should we summarize my review, or we could just move on past it? Because I don't think we have to go and make that the main subject of the conversation.
Oh, I was just building off your review.
Yeah, there were other questions we had about this whole thing. So I mean, I don't think we want to bog this down with just going over yours and my opinions on the game again.
Just like quick summary, because Scaife did build off the review. Is my point was the game is good in its main core. It's very, very great. That's a fun thing, and the first few hours are fantastic. The problem is the game is stretched over about 40 hours. And many of the systems in the game are not necessary. And also, this game is trying to be a prestige HBO drama, just because that's kind of what Sony sells now as its major games. That's kind of the goal, considering Last of Us is now an HBO prestige drama. That seems to be a kind of level of maturity that the game is attempting, but it's largely opposed, and it's not compatible with what this game actually wants to do and the story it's trying to tell. But we have one other person whose opinion matters probably more importantly than everyone else's, because, she gets to go last, so final thoughts. Yuncha-san, what did you think of Final Fantasy 16?
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with a lot of points that have been made before, but I've had a very strange emotional reaction to Final Fantasy 16. I had lots of questions about as well, which I will bounce back to you guys. I don't want to say I'm disappointed by this game, because I feel like I'm not. There's a lot of things which are good about this game, and it's a strange thing where I think the icon bits are so great, and then so much of this game is good, and then the bits which aren't as good are kind of mediocre instead of being terrible, like in FF15. And I feel like my emotional reaction to this is therefore worse and more harsh, because the bits in between are mediocre rather than just plain bad or over-ambitious or overly stretched. It's interesting as well. There's a lot of critiques that we can talk about in terms of the plot and the treatment of characters and so on. And I wonder, when I assess this game and my overall reaction to it, why are people so much kinder to Tears of the Kingdom, which I think in many aspects is a much worse game than this. Tears of the Kingdom is universally praised, even though its combat system is terrible, its plot is terrible, its characters are also kind of boring. It runs terribly as well. And it's a game that, to be honest, I have not finished, partly because FF16 released, and then I just wasn't that interested enough to go back to it. Tears of the Kingdom is also a game that doesn't have the thrust that FF16 had at the beginning. But overall, I feel quite positive about Tears of the Kingdom, and it appears everyone else does as well, and I'm wondering why is there that difference in opinion. I wonder as well in terms of reactions to FF16. It's been a long time since we've had a Final Fantasy game, and in some ways I feel we're harsher on this game than we've been on games in the past, and that's probably because most of us were teenagers and children when we were playing earlier Final Fantasy games. So part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast was to see how our reactions were a couple of weeks after playing FF16 and seeing if emotions have changed now that we're out of it. I think the other question I've been coming back to over and over again is this game ambitious enough? Because I think Final Fantasy games usually are very ambitious and inspired. And I want to say that it's not unambitious, because they changed the gameplay entirely. They did try to do something new. But at the same time, it feels like they did play it not exactly safe, but they curtailed what they were going to do. There's just not enough wackiness in this game. We needed to do something silly, like why can't Clive race chocobos? Or why did we never actually get a crafting mini game in this? Why can we not go and try and have awkward dates with Gav, or with the other people there? It's just not enough weirdness in this game. FF15 was a really weird game, and then this game is not very weird at all. I have thoughts as well about the higher level gameplay in this game. The gameplay is a lot of fun, but I think one of the weaknesses is Clive kind of does the same thing in every fight, regardless of what the fight is, except for Barnabas, who's a really amazing fight, and actually responds to your actions and so on. He's got like windows and so on. I don't think it's so much a fault of gameplay and combat design as it is of enemy design. So I'd like to segue into saying, what is your most desired DLC for FF16? Because my most desired DLC is to have Limit Cut and to have some super bosses to really stretch the meaning of the combat and gameplay. Because Kingdom Hearts 3 was also had a similar problem where the game was too easy and Sora had a billion tools and you could do anything in the game to try and defeat the enemies. It didn't really matter, but Limit Cut was really incredible.
I agree. I think that would be yeah.
I want to pause DLC talk. I just want to respond to Tears of the Kingdom, because that is my favorite game of the year. And I did not write a review for it, but I do want to respond to that criticism, because, alright, I'll admit you're correct about several things about Tears of the Kingdom. One, the combat is bad. The final boss of that game requires you to have mastered the Flurry Rush system, which I think does not actually work. It doesn't work. I don't think it works. Like, it might even be less functional than it was in the last game. That's less of a deal breaker for me. The other thing is, story-wise, it's a story that I think is unfinished, and I have multiple complaints about it. They just don't fulfill many of the main topics that it brings up. It never even explains how this Ganondorf that's in this game connects with Calamity Ganon from the last game. No one even, considers that thought. I will say the major thing that Tears of the Kingdom does good that Final Fantasy XVI does poorly is that Tears of the Kingdom knows it's a Zelda game and is playing in that register. So it's the kind of Zelda tone of weird people that you're meeting and fun characters and high adventure. It's not attempting to be a more mature melodrama that it isn't. It probably should have put more focus into the story, and also is almost as bad in terms of female representation, because Zelda's barely in that game. And playing those games back to back really left me pissed off about the state of female representation in major video games. Because Final Fantasy XVI does it horribly, Tears of the Kingdom does it really poorly. The other major positive of Tears of the Kingdom is that even though the combat's bad, it has such cool systems. And Final Fantasy XVI doesn't have physics systems, it only has a combat engine. And actually, the combat engine is entirely flat. Like, there's no other terrains that the game ever works in. There's no other change of the combat, where Tears of the Kingdom has all kinds of different ways that the physics can interfere with the combat. So even if the combat's bad, you can at least play around with it and try to avoid it and strategize around it, which you just can't do in 16. Anyway, everyone else, give your DLC thoughts.
No, I mean, I agree. Part of it is my question to myself. Why do I feel quite positively about Tears of the Kingdom? And it's more about, why can we forgive Tears of the Kingdom all of these flaws that it has, whilst we nitpick Final Fantasy XVI for it?
I guess it's also just like, it just comes down to like personal preference of what you like doing in games. Because I could play I could turn on Tears of the Kingdom right now and BS in that world for like the rest of the night. Just wander around the underworld and explore, even without really much of a point or a plan. It's just fun being there, shooting up in the sky and all that sort of stuff. And I think maybe some people really like just being in Final Fantasy 16, even if the quests are super boring, where I just never found myself loving being in that game when I wasn't doing combat.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is just in terms of personal preference, because Tears of the Kingdom, my opinion is that I think a lot of the game is tedious, honestly. And so it's kind of I think it is just a personal preference. I don't know, when I was playing Final Fantasy 16, even though it wasn't my favorite Final Fantasy game, I'm reminded that I am a Final Fantasy game and not as much of a Zelda fan. You know, it's just like, I like the series. I was happy to play this game. It was nice to have a new game in the series, even if it wasn't my favorite one of all time. Well, I was just not captured in the same way by Tears of the Kingdom, which is not to say that Tears of the Kingdom is a bad game in any way. It's just, I think it is ultimately a personal preference thing in the grand scheme of things, I suppose.
Yeah.
But in terms of DLC, I agree with Limit God.
I will admit a personal bias here that I think Zelda is the greatest franchise of all time, and Final Fantasy is merely second or third, possibly behind Kingdom Hearts.
A pretender to the throne, a cur begging for scraps at his master's table.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe my sense of it is, this is one of the, if you permit me for saying so, the goodest Final Fantasy games, where there's not like really terrible points, just kind of mediocre points, and the game's very well made, but it's not that great a game other than the icon battles. And unlike many games in Final Fantasy where you could kind of see the kind of greatness they were aiming for, it feels like they didn't really aim for that greatness.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 15 is the greatest Final Fantasy game, but it's one of the worst ones, if that makes any sense. Like yeah, Final Fantasy 15 is like a game that when you imagine it, it's like, wow, this is the best game I've ever played. But then you actually play it and you're like, wait, this game is actually not good in any way. Final Fantasy 16 is not that. Final Fantasy 16 is a good game. When you play it, it is good. The systems work. The game does not crash. The game, they actually have a ending. They finished the game. There's all these sort of things that Final Fantasy 15 fails at. But in some ways, Final Fantasy 15 is a memorable experience that I look upon with some fondness. Same with Final Fantasy 8, which is a game I think is also an enormous failure. But I have very deep, bizarrely deep memories of that and like impression of that game on my mind. And perhaps because I played it as at formable, like a time that it was malleable. But I think also because it was just a memorable experience and a memorable failure in that way. And Final Fantasy 16 is not a memorable failure.
I don't know if I define... I don't think I define any of these games as failures. Final Fantasy 8...
I think Final Fantasy 15...
Final Fantasy 15
is a failure.
15, yes. I think that game is probably irredeemable. I think that is still at the bottom of my ranking.
In the case of, from a corporate perspective, 15 was definitely a clear success. But as as something to like, iterate on, think of in the past, it's pretty much dead in that respect. Like, they put out this one game which was kind of flawed but okay in the vacuum, and then their studio did all this DLC that started terrible, got slightly better, and then got cancelled because the director fled. And then they made Forspoken.
Oh,
and then Square Enix closed the studio.
Yeah, Forspoken.
So, like,
I paid $70 for that game. I paid.
So, like, it feels like from a development perspective, 15's just a dead end.
Well, I mean, you're one of the. You can be one of the privileged few to pay $70 for Forspoken, because I don't think anyone else has.
No, well, I mean, some people did, but Jesus, you know what? That game.
I think something I like about 16. 16 is a game with sincerity. 15 was also a game with sincerity. It was just campy.
Oh yeah, God, that's still full price on Steam. That's still 115 Australian dollars. Fuck that.
115 Australian dollars for Forspoken.
Yeah, don't
I will
spend
say
that.
two things that FF15 did really well, which I think FF16 did not do well, is FF16's world, in terms of being able to explore, it's really boring. They really dropped the ball on that. It's a beautiful world, but in terms of actually being able to like go into it and be excited by it, 15's world was much better. And Arden was also a great villain, whereas I feel like Barnabas, they kind of dropped the ball on putting him into the storyline at appropriate times.
I mean, I don't even know if I'd call Barnabas the villain. It's it's been like
Ultima.
5 weeks. What's his name?
Ultima,
thank you. It's been 5 weeks since I finished the game. I completely forgot the dude's name. It's like Alien from Prometheus. He's the main villain. Barnabas is just,
It's Sayx. It's Sayx from Organization 13.
Yeah.
Same strange monologues.
Yeah, he goes completely ape crap on us, and that was fun. Unfortunately, he's wearing a mask.
David Menken's enjoying the entire fucking time.
Yeah, the problem is he's wearing a mask,
I
and I wanted to see his face when he's going apeshit.
He's lots of fun when he's actually there, but he's like in the game very early on, then just disappears for 50% of the runtime. It's kind of a mysterious decision.
And Ultima's boring.
And he monologues like a crazy Organization 13 member.
I think we can officially say that Ultima is just a boring villain. He says the same damn thing every time. He has nothing else to say.
I really liked his Amaro-ish creepy PowerPoint he does for Joshua and Clive. He's like, and now I will go, next PowerPoint slide, please continue this way to see it.
Well, welcome to the Void Beyond. I have prepared some slides on these rocks for you.
He's the most considerate villain. He's just like, I'll be here chilling in my giant evil crystal. You may finish all the side quests you like.
Yeah.
I'm not in a hurry.
I can't believe that's 2 consecutive years where Ultima's voice actor plays the villain who spends pretty much the entire game chilling at a place in the middle of the game world called Origin.
You know what I loved
Xenoblade 3.
You know what I loved in that game, in Final Fantasy 16, is that Ultima's doing the same speech he always does, where he's like, "You are Gnosis." What does he call Clive every time?
Logos.
Logos. You're Logos.
Logos and Mythos.
You are Mythos. Stop being Clive, be my Mythos. And then at some point, like, towards the end of the game, Clive is just like, do you ever shut up? This is all you ever say is the same shit over and over again. Be my Mythos. No. Be my Mythos. No.
I also really enjoy Clive as a character. He's like a simpleton, but he's very charming in that.
In a sense, Clive and Jack Garland are very similar characters, except Clive gets a moment to actually stop, collect himself, and be nice every once in a while.
He wasn't angry enough. The story of an angry man.
We're gonna kill Ultima.
Like Clive definitely says fuck more times than Jack Garland. Jack only gets 3 usages, I think. 2 in the
Really?
main game and 1 in the final DLC. Like when he kills the main villain of the entire story and she's given her dying speech, he just responds with, "Shut the fuck up."
Oh, that's great. You know, that is the kind of edgy that I think this series should keep up with. It's just stupid enough that it's great.
Yeah, why wasn't Clive ever, turning on his Limp Bizkit on his phone when Ultima's giving a monologue?
Was it Limp Bizkit on the phone, or was it just some anonymous butt
That
rock?
was an original song. That
okay.
was made for the game.
Oh, I think I joked that it was Limp Bizkit. And no, the original song was who was it? It was My Way.
There's also My Way, yeah.
Yeah, My Way. For some reason, one of the weirdest decisions. What a weird game. Strangers of Paradise is inexplicable. It's amazing.
Yeah, like the ending of 16's final boss fight. That feels exactly like something that would come out of that game. Like, in fact, even more cartoonish because Stranger Paradise wouldn't have the damage number for 1,000,000 pop up when Clive punches him in the face.
And then he punches a hole through him, like it's Kung Pao into the fist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that bit rules.
It does roll. That's what the game should be. And like for half the game, it's trying to be like high politics, Yasumi Matsuno stuff. It's like you just don't have the chops. You don't care about the politics enough to do this stuff. You care about him punching a hole through the villain.
So, like, the thing is, it doesn't really have enough moving parts for that because the nations of the world are almost completely non-entities. The story entirely revolves around the dominance itself, with the one exception of the point of time where one of the royal dads is important. Your dad in Rosario, or the Emperor of Sambrek. Everything about the destruction of Sambrek and the Bahamut fight is also one of the top tier moments. Most hype murder of a child in fiction.
How does he die again? I forgot. Not Joshua.
And now Dion.
Olivier.
Yeah,
he gets
the Bahamut fight, Dion just fucking stabs the kid.
Yeah.
Dion is cool. I like Dion a lot. I like Joshua as well. It was really sad when Joshua first joins the party, and Joshua's like, "Wow, so exciting to be like adventuring with my big brother again." And Clive's like, "Shut up, Joshua. We're not here to have fun."
But they do have fun. That's like Clive and Joshua together are actually the emotional core of this game, where so much of the game makes you think that it should be Clive and Jill, but that's not what it's going for at all.
There's you probably didn't do the side quest, but there's a cute side quest where Joshua and Clive are told that there's a will from their father, and they go on like a little adventure together to go and have the will read out.
And what happens?
It's just like cute bonding moments where Joshua actually responds in the cutscenes and so on, and they get like a little matching bracelet made for each other.
Oh my god, that's
Friendship.
amazing.
Yeah, like that last batch of quests has like one actual proper bonding moment with Joshua and one proper bonding moment with Jill, and you could have had this throughout, the other two-thirds of the post-time skip, whole other two-thirds of the story there's post-time skip.
Joshua helps with all 3 of those, actually. So he's got that one where he goes and gets the will read with Clive. Then he's got one where he's like, "Hey, Clive, Jill is very sad. Do you remember this time when you tried to look at flowers with Jill? Go and do that. Take her for a date," basically. He just like holds Clive's hands as he teaches Clive how to date his girlfriend. And then the other one is one about Torgal. And Joshua accompanies you to a boat to go to this island that Clive and Torgal used to escape to. And he's just like, "Well, you guys get on the boat. It looks like it only fits 2 people. Enjoy," and waves you off.
So Torgal counts as a person on the boat?
Yes,
Okay.
Torgal counts as a person, but
I'm
I think
sorry.
it's just clearly Joshua's got enough EQ to be like, "This is time for bonding."
Okay, sorry.
Goodbye, brother.
I don't want to doubt the personhood of dogs. I'm just confused how Final Fantasy XVI counts personhood.
Torgal's pretty big. He takes up a human-sized seat in a few things.
He's also got, like, a super form, which feels underexplored, but that's fine.
There's a side quest about his super form as well.
Okay.
So, but, yes, it is bizarre that he just randomly transforms into a super wolf, and then it's
He's
kind
actually a frost wolf or something.
and they're just kind of like, whatever. We're just gonna accept
people-
that.
Whatever, he's a magic dog.
People don't really pay enough attention to that. Also, they comment that Torgal's actually Jill's dog. But that also feels
then
underexplored.
No, but then it turns out that actually Torgal's like Clive and can just absorb all icons or something.
Alright.
Yeah, basically his powers have been getting stronger because like he's like probably a descendant of Fenrir, and just being around dominance just enhances his powers, and well, he's been near all of them, so
Maybe he's the dog mythos. And there's like a dog Ultima that's taunting him.
Well, the dog, he keeps saving Clive because they keep forgetting to crucify the dog. It's just a classic mistake by villains. You should always, if you're going to crucify the main hero, you should always crucify their pet dog as well. They're always going to come and bite you. It happens to everybody.
So this is what Pontius Pilate did wrong. He didn't crucify Jesus' dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I think Benedictus' scream of "fucking dog" might be one of the high points in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the moments that proved that it's going to be a cool game where Torgal just fucking leaps and grabs her by the neck and throws her.
Speaking of Jesus, all right, we've had this conversation, I think, like internally, but I do want to get this on the podcast. It is so weird to me that Clive evolves or obtains the power. It's all very poorly explained in the game itself, where he goes from mythos to logos. Logos, of course, being the Greek word for word, which is what people call Christ, as in the word made flesh. So Clive almost literally becomes Jesus Christ at the end of this game.
Yeah, and then he dies for his sins by turning into a rock.
Yes.
Which I believe is what happened. I believe the end of the book of Matthew is like Jesus is there, he's on the cross, and then an alien descends from the sky. He punches the alien so hard that he explodes, and then turns into a rock.
That's actually the Gnostic Gospel of Mary Magdalene.
Well, then the whole thing turns into a storybook by Joshua, just like the Bible. There you go. Yeah. It's literally it's right there in front of us. Mm-hmm. This is a retelling of the Bible.
Yes, and Ultima, of course, would be the Demiurge. So don't trust him. Yeah, the Aldebaoth. Yeah. That guy just keeps. Who is? Oh, your mom. Your evil mom.
Yeah,
she's
your mother.
Yeah.
Of course, she's the original, the second wife, the evil wife of Adam.
She is maternity, but twisted and unnatural, and she gives birth to a demon child.
There you go.
Yeah, it all works.
This is it.
All right.
Tune back next podcast. Final Fantasy 16 is seen through a Gnostic lens.
Yep.
This is my master's thesis. I'm going to be defending this in front of all of you.
And then tune into the podcast of that, which is Final Fantasy VII as seen through a Kabbalistic context. It's just me writing Sephiroth equals Sphirot.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I want to go back to Yunsha-san's question, like from 20 minutes ago that we unfortunately passed, which was what kind of DLC do we want for this game?
Besides super bosses and limit cuts, I think we just desperately need short character DLCs where you get to play as Jill or Sid Who Fucks or Joshua or whoever, so that you can at least get a little bit more from these characters, because as it is, you get very few character moments, and that's something that's deeply missing from the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you did Sid's backstory, you would maybe be able to do Barnabas's rise in Ash, since Sid was his Lord Commander, I think.
I feel like there is a plot hook that is that really was not explored at all. That is begging for something to be said. Leviathan. Like,
Oh,
all
yes,
that really happens is at one point Joshua looks at me, oh yeah, Leviathan the Lost is there. Well, go fucking find him.
I think what happened was it just like commissioned an art from Amano and like put all the summons there and like, we don't have time for Leviathan.
And aside from some sort of Final Mix-esque expansion, which I think is inevitable, like, one of the inspirations of this game is the Kingdom Hearts series. Like, you had Yoshida in one interview saying, oh, well, when we started on this, Square Enix didn't really know how to make action games, except for Tetsuya Nomura and the Kingdom Hearts team. And also, like, the Kingdom Hearts team worked on this game. Like, I feel like that kind of expansion to the game is inevitable. It even feels like it fits the structure, because people kind of forget, because of the HD remixes, the original English release of Kingdom Hearts 2 was almost as anemic as the original release of Kingdom Hearts 3.
No, it had Sephiroth.
2 had a bit more. But there is so much more added in the later versions.
Yeah. Oh, and Kingdom Hearts 1, the original Japanese release, is very, very barren in terms of super bosses.
It was just the Phantom, and we don't talk about the Phantom.
And one more thing, stop chickening out with these nudity scenes. Give me photo mode during cutscenes. I want to see some dick.
You want to see specific dick.
I want Torgal cam. Please, we need to be able to tilt the camera over so we can see that Torgal watched the entire time.
I want full camera control during that one Barnabas cutscene to just see what the fuck was going on there.
Is this with Barnabas and his mother?
Yeah.
Also Benedict and Hugo Kupka.
The one where Ultima's changing. Okay, which one of these people would you like to have sex with? Benedict is hot. Maybe you swing that way. Okay, fine. We'll go with the fucking incest.
God.
Yeah, so the Ultima presented the female option, the male option, the non-binary option, and Barnabas's mother.
Yeah, that's your dating profile there. All your JRPG options. Let me think. What DLC do I want? Because I asked this question, I didn't actually consider it much. Let me come to... I think what this game needs most is Blitzball. They should just add a DLC where all the characters play Blitzball. And it doesn't need to make any sense plot-wise. It's just, you just do it. And of course Barnabas is the final boss of this. He leads the awful jock team that are very obnoxious. And all his players are Sleipnir. He's just got a whole team of Sleipnir. And they're total dicks to you.
That would be amazing, honestly.
They're total dicks to you.
I think beach volleyball DLC.
Yeah, exactly. I think Square Enix needs to hire me. I got this. And of course, you go and you gather a team of all the various other icon users. And as I mentioned in the review, Hugo Kupka is your goaltender because all he has to do is stand there, and they can't get past him because the dude's so big.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Why make so many characters?
This would tie in with getting Leviathan. Like if you want anyone to get in your Blitzball team, it'd clearly be the dominance of water. So that's why we go try and find Leviathan.
You're saying
there probably is beach volleyball in Final Fantasy 15 somewhere. To be honest.
So Yunchi-san was saying something. What was it?
No, I was just saying why make all these hot characters if you're not going to put them in the beach episode?
Exactly, yeah. Here you are. It's almost the Marvel problem of everyone's hot but nobody's allowed to be horny. Except in Final Fantasy 16, they are allowed to be horny. Yeah, I'll give them that.
Jill was clearly extremely horny for Clive for a long time. I'm honestly surprised that Clive knows what sex is.
I don't think he does. I think.
Why do you think Tolga was there in the beach scene? Someone had to teach him.
Oh God!
Of course.
This is gross. He's a dog. It's nasty. But no, like, seriously, I think the game actually is implying that the beach scene is the first time either one of them possibly has had sex, if that's even sex at all. It's all metaphorical, and it's so weird that they're in their 30s by that point. I don't know what to do with that. I really don't.
It is a weird scene.
The whole... yeah. Luckily, Sid is there. He has normal sex with men and women.
This game does feel like it takes about 1/10 of the time that they say it takes.
Yes.
Like, 1.8 years would be a lot more believable than 18.
Maybe, you know what, this is not Earth, so when they say years, it could be like a year is 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. It actually takes place on Mercury or something. And the Earth just spins really quickly.
Yeah. Because, I mean, even Joshua...
What was Clive doing during all that time?
Even Joshua was getting some. I mean, he was sleeping with his... I don't remember her name. His, assistant lady. Does she have a name?
Yeah.
What's her name?
Yote.
Okay.
It's Yote.
Yote? Oh,
The
Yote.
gay.
Okay. That's gotta be, like, a Norse reference, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I think you wanted to ask what we want for FF17. I'd like us to stop killing God. Can we do a different plot other than killing God?
Well, I mean, the last Final Fantasy game where you don't kill God, if we're putting it beside Final Fantasy 15, is Final Fantasy 12, because the villains are the ones that are doing that, putting history back in the reins of man, right?
You're not opposed to it, though.
There's not a lot of capital G gods. There's a hell of a lot of false gods. So, like 15, they cancelled the bit where you were going to kill Bahamut, and then some people came up with a theory that the Bahamut in Stranger of Paradise is the one that is the same as the one in 15 after the events of the book, because they look very similar. 14, there's no real gods. There's a shit ton of fake ones, and you kill all of them.
13 is all
13
killing gods, yeah.
13 is all killing gods.
13 is someone who acts like a god, but its demiurge is all the way down. So yeah, that counts as killing god.
Even the Pope is god, and he's also evil.
Yeah.
12, technically, depends on what you think the Ikuria are.
They're god.
We don't really kill the Ikuria.
Yeah, but they become irrelevant.
You kind of kill Vanar. She kind of really committed suicide, though. It sort of counts. 11, 10. I don't know.
No one.
10, you kill God. You do kill God at the end of the game.
Yevon's he's simultaneously God and Satan.
9. We kill God if we consider it.
No,
Necron's
all right.
something.
All right, 9 you don't kill God, and 8 you don't kill God.
7 you also don't kill God. But 6.
7.
All right, sorry. All right, well, Sephiroth is of course an emanation of God or something.
Yeah, well,
we got Kabbalah.
Tune back next time when the Kabbalistic interpretation of killing
exactly.
God.
Yeah. All right, he's not. He's trying to become God. He is not God. Yeah, Kefka is God.
5. Extef's not a god. He's a character from a Cronenberg movie.
4 after years, you kill God.
Yeah, 4 after years has God. 4 normal, it's
Moon people.
4 normal, it's just some asshole.
Moon people.
3
asshole moon guy.
3 you kill.
Kind of.
3 you kill hot Satan, but she's not God.
Yeah.
Noah is the creator deity in that thing.
2 you kill. The final boss kills Satan and becomes Satan, and then in the remakes you also get to go to heaven and kill God.
And 1 no. Except for Dissidia, where Dissidia has like 9 gods and they're all evil. Every emanation of Final Fantasy 1 has you killing God or dealing with God for some reason. So there you are. That's the whole history of killing God in Final Fantasy backwards.
Perfect. But anyway, the point is no more God. and we're gods next time. Just good old-fashioned people. Humans.
Oh,
maybe a giant enemy crab.
We do have to mention tactics because Jesus is Ultima and is evil.
That is a game. People say that Final Fantasy games get hijacked by gods halfway through the plot. That's not that true, except for that game. That is the game where God does hijack the plot halfway through, and you have to go kill God.
Yeah.
And also, like, on the technicality 6, because, it's hijacked by someone who is a god at that point, but for most of the story, it's just known as that clown asshole.
Yeah. When finally Emperor Joker shows up and Batman has to kill God. Alright, so we were talking about what we want out of 17. The question becomes, like, what plot do you have if you're not killing God? What else do you do in the world?
Road trip.
Road trip? It's just bros?
Yeah. Just bros, just the bros on the road trip. Bros on the road. I don't know. I think it'll be a while, obviously, before the next Final Fantasy game, but I think they will react in the way they always do and make something just entirely different from the game we just played. And so I look forward to that.
Tonally, I would want something different because I don't want every game to be like this. Like, I don't think that the tone was bad. I think they could have done better with it, but I don't want the next one to be another attempt at that because that gets too samey. And Final Fantasy is nothing if not inconsistent. Like the last 2 games that you could look at one, look at the other, and think, yes, this is clearly a direct successor of the previous one, 6 and 7. It's not really a proper mainline Final Fantasy title if it doesn't bring something new and completely unexpected to the table. And often when I think about and actually when I've been thinking about what I'd want out of a Final Fantasy 17, is less about like the tone or the story and more sort of technical concerns, because this shit is getting expensive and taking forever. Like this, pre-planning for 16 started, I think, a few months before 15 came out. Like this was after Heavensward.
Jesus.
But this stuff takes forever now, and I mostly just think of taking like the early 3D titles, 7 through 10, as an inspiration, not for what exactly you should do, but what kind of techniques were done there because of technical limitations that could still be applied today to save on time and money. Like, you don't have to make gigantic, lush environments. You can spin the camera around and see everything, and take forever to develop if you just have a fixed camera.
I don't think you could pull a game off anymore with a fixed camera. I think you're kind of stuck with this general mode of what a AAA game is. It has to have voice acting. It has to have mostly realistic graphics. It has to have a free-flowing camera. It has to have semi-open world sections. It's got to have crafting and stuff. These are like requirements if you're going to make a game that's going to sell multi-million copies.
And semi-open world sections just generally are bad.
Yeah.
Like this AAA paradigm is part of the problem, and you got to actually challenge that.
Well,
we don't need to have realistic graphics though. 9 is a beautiful game. Why can't we do stylism anymore?
You know what? I agree with you. I think it's wrong that this is what the assumption is, but I think you can do stylism to a point, but generally, if you're gonna want to sell a AAA game, you're gonna want semi-realism. Like Final Fantasy 16 is not realism, because look at Clive's outfit. It's preposterous. It makes no sense. Who's wearing that?
I mean, he's living his best life. Just let him have it. All
He's
right?
got so much swag. I'll give him that. Like he's just dripping with swag all game.
Yeah, you can really tell that this was kept, the most important part of the Final Fantasy series, because the protagonist was dripped out to all hell and back.
Yeah,
I love that he's just like, he goes like someone's house and like, I found this old thing in your father's old dress in your closet, and Clive's like, I don't know, like I don't know, I'm supposed to be in disguise. He's like, no, it's fine, just wear your father's ridiculous vampire outfit. No one will ever think no one
It
ever
must
realizes it's
stink
you.
so much as well,
what?
because it appears Clive didn't take it off for like 10 years.
Yeah, like, why didn't the rest of Rosaria have this kind of drip? Like, they just look like a standard fantasy kingdom, when clearly, you know, the guy who owned the place said, you know, let's just go full on the goth shit.
And you know what? Clive's dad didn't wear that costume. He wore a completely different weird costume. So I don't even know. Was that lady like lying to Clive? She's just like, I really want you to wear this because you are a beautiful man and will look great in this costume. I'll make up that your dad loved it.
I got all this leather in my closet and I just can't get rid of it. Rick, I need to find someone to give it to.
The world is ending. You must wear this costume.
Clive's going, it's a little bit tight, is that? And the lady's going, yeah, that's exactly how it fits. Just keep wearing it.
I love after the time skip, you can see he's worn it for so long because the costume is like dusty and dirty. It hasn't been washed. And it's just like,
The
Clive is
strings are breaking apart.
extremely stinky by the last half of the game.
The level is too tight. I can't take it off now.
You know what? I can't.
It's fused to my skin.
I just can't believe that Final Fantasy people have like body odor in any way. They're too porcelain. Their flesh just is not human like ours. There can't possibly be sweat off these creatures.
I mean, Final Fantasy X, no one got wet, so he went into the water. So maybe it's true. Maybe they're just like smooth like statues. Water just drips right off them.
They've got a lipid bilayer over all of them, so water just does not attach it anyway.
That's the secret.
Yeah.
Come back to my master's thesis, the biology of Final Fantasy protagonists.
Yeah.
I guess the fault is you're thinking about technical limitations. You can think about that and try and make your game around that. If you're conceiving, for example, a Final Fantasy game that just takes place in an enormous city, rather than having many different environments, or I know a Final Fantasy game that takes place in the mind, or for some reason there to be limitations in the style. That's a Final Fantasy that takes place in the spirit realm, and the spirit realm is some sort of black and white hellhole that you are in for like half the game or whatever.
You know what I think I want? I do like that idea, but you know what I think? I'm going to say two things. I think my Final Fantasy 17, you put me in charge of this, the first thing I'm doing is I'm saying, you know what, we're going to do a pixel art turn-based game. We're doing it retro style. We just need to go and break up the monotony just a little bit. And I bet I'm going to get tons of pushback, and Square Enix will fire me 5 minutes after I say that, but that's what they do if they make me dictator. Second thing is, I think Square Enix's problem is they go and they always throw out the baby with the bathwater. Though 16 and 7 Remake do feel like more of a compilation of all the ideas they've had over all these years, I think what they need to do with 16 is they can make a fantastic game, like a truly one of the best games of the year, if they keep working on this idea and expand it in more creative ways. And like, one thing they need to do is that this game has sort of an open world thing. It just needs some kind of physics system. It just needs something where, like, this transformation into icons is not just something that happens in a cutscene. It should be something I'm able to do in the world. And that's an enormous thing to ask. Like, it's not one of the smallest things you could ask for. It's enormous. It takes so much work. I mean, it's an insane thing for me to ask them to do. That's why Tears of the Kingdom took 6 years to make, because of all the physics stuff that's going on there. But it's just something I think the game needs to have. I think like a modern game needs more of a connection between your choices and the reality around you. And Final Fantasy sort of stuck with that.
I think the problem with 16 is it's got one good system, essentially, which is the combat gameplay, and the rest is kind of vestigial. So even if you don't have physics, Clive should have been able to do things like, well, I've got Titan's power now, so I need to help this village by building a big wall with all these rocks I can now conjure.
Yeah.
Clive needs to go and help someone get a cat from the roof using his Garuda power or something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
He needs to be friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree. And I think that if they ever made a Final Fantasy 16 2, that would be something they should focus on instead of making it a time traveling game. But you know.
So, do we have any further thoughts, or are we actually like wrapping up now?
One thing that we kind of skipped on the things that a 17 should do. Actually, first thing we would need to demand is female main character, so that you guys are actually forced to write one correctly, for fuck's sake.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I didn't speak about this to not allow the waves of feminine resentments to overwhelm this podcast.
It's bad. Jill is... I've said this before. I think she's a scandal. The way that she's written in this game is brutally unacceptable.
I think 16 is an improvement over 15, but that's just because you didn't fucking kill Jill off.
I think Lunafre is a better character than Jill.
Yeah.
I think...
Lunafre at least wants things, like, independently.
Yeah, like, address. And to send letters with a time-traveling dog.
SomeColorMage, do you have anything else on top of that?
No.
Okay. I feel like...
I believe the other request for DLC is people in Japan apparently really want you to be able to romance Jill and take her on dates throughout the world.
I wouldn't be against it. I mean, they'd have to go and write Clive and Jill, romance scenes, which they've done one of, and those two characters basically have no chemistry whatsoever in the game. Because Jill is not really a person, so it's impossible to have chemistry.
Yeah, because you can just see them in a cafe. It's like, so how about that weather? Oh, it's purple, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to bring up as well is, in terms of the ending, I read a lot of bizarre speculation on Reddit where people seem to believe that Joshua is dead and actually this book is written by someone else, and the going theory appears to be that they think Clive wrote it. And I think that's nonsense, because I don't think Clive is capable of writing a book.
Is Clive illiterate?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like his family didn't really let him go to school, and instead it's like, you're the spare, go to military school, work out how to swing sword good. And I think it's really funny when Joshua speaks and talks to and interacts with other people. You're like, this is why you're the heir.
Yeah, he is actually someone that can run things. Clive's just not.
It would be funny if Clive's death scene was a fake out, because they're doing all the flags. He's fucking turning to stone. He collapses in a way that's often used to distinguish someone dying. Yeah, he's probably dead, but at the same time, it'd be really funny if just the next morning, oh, I'm fucking tired. What did I do last night? Looks at his rock hand. Shit.
I don't think this game ever showed you anything in a cutscene that was not literally true, except for a few allusions by Ultima, so I don't know why you doubt what you saw with Clive dying at any point.
I mean, there's the entire fake out bit at the opening where you're like, who's Ifrit, and Joshua dies, right?
Yeah, but, I mean, he's Phoenix. Phoenix is just gonna come back.
Yeah, it's up to interpretation what actually happens, but it doesn't really seem to be that ambiguous on the fact that Clive probably didn't make it.
Though, if Clive is Jesus, he will return in 3
back.
days. And then he'll disappear again and say he's coming back soon, but then thousands of years will pass. So...
You hate to say it.
Yeah. One day, I'm sure. Any day now. As a matter of fact, I have a formula that says it's going to be, I think it's like 1846. So, yeah, then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I calculate the age of the universe, and therefore it's going to happen in the mid 19th century. Nothing bad could possibly happen to me if I say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't believe the lies. It's a false messiah. It's always a Dybbuk.
Oh, dang. That's what Final Fantasy 17 needs. It needs a Dybbuk.
Yeah.
We should have a Final Fantasy
game.
Yeah.
We should have a Final Fantasy game where you are fighting against the Dybbuk, the false messiah, and then it turns out you are the Dybbuk all along.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love it. Not just Sephiroth, but proper Kabbalah, and the god you have to kill has 10 or 11 forms.
I think you should have have a golem. Like it takes place in 17th century Prague. There's a golem. That would be a great Final Fantasy game.
It turns out you thought you were the rabbi that created the golem, but really you're a golem created by yet another rabbi.
Yeah, and it just rabbis all the way down.
It's golems all the way down.
Yeah, exactly. That's the twist.
I thought that's the plot of the new games.
The new games, they were all golems created by rabbis.
Yeah.
It's all robots all the way down.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yes. Everyone's a robot.
All right.
Welcome to the Final Fantasy podcast, where we spoil other series for you.
Yeah. Where
Well, it's not a spoil in Nier Automata that the main characters are robots. That's kind of the premise. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, as we slowly turn more and more towards the occult and esotericism.
Yeah.
I think we're mostly towards the way of wrapping up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. We're just getting into weirder and weirder territory. So, this has been the Final Fantasy Wiki Podcast. I'm your host, BlueHighwind, and with me was SomeColorMage and Yuncha-san. This is a monthly podcast, and next month we might have a different kind of podcast, so look forward to that. As for this month's episode, our podcast music was La Montana de los Jovenes Caballeros, which is by XPRTNovice off the OC Remix Balance and Ruin soundtrack. It's Mount Koltz from Final Fantasy VI. If you haven't played Final Fantasy VI, you should definitely play Final Fantasy VI. It's better than Final Fantasy XVI. I think that's everything I'm supposed to say, right? Do I got anything else? Is there any other things I'm supposed to say? That's everything? Okay.
Everything.
With that, I woke up at 6:30 this morning, and I've done many things today, including podcasting, so I'm going to go to sleep.
Should we have been allowed to perv on Boone?
I don't know.
On Hippocrates?
As it turns out, he's got a rocking body underneath all those robes.
Yeah.
They should have let us use photo mode during the cutscenes.
Yeah. He's got like an 8-pack.
I think maybe FF16 would have been improved if it allowed you to romance the different characters, so you could try and romance Gav.
I think Hippocrates is now canonically just absolutely jacked.
Yeah, he's like Master Roshi. He just pulls the power scale, and all of a sudden he's got big bulging muscles. All right.
The reason he can't move is because of all the muscles.
Yeah, it's because he never does leg day. His legs are shriveled and weak, but his upper body is just insane.